Dakota, you want to come up here and lead us in prayer?
When pigs fly twice.
What?
When pigs fly twice.
I need to expect to be able to teach and things one of these days. Huh? I spent all of your life training you. Sharon, would you like to come up and lead us in prayer?
Which one?
Which one would like to come?
She would.
Okay, I'll give the first one. You have the second one. We'll do rock, paper, scissors. Oh, Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for all the blessings you give us, Lord. Thank you for being our Creator, for loving us, and for always giving us second chances. Thank you, Lord, that we have this ability to study your word and learn your word, and help Jim as he teaches tonight, and help us all get home safe later. Thank you for everything you do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. It's always good to have you in here, and Mike both. Tell him I missed him extra bad tonight.
Yeah.
I know what he's doing. All right, we'll do a little bit of review. All right, you know what that means? Do it again. A little review. Sharon, did you get to listen to this last week's class?
No, I haven't.
Oh, we didn't get to listen to it. Well, I'll give you a little 20-minute review here on what we studied a little bit last week. It's all right. Sharon, Pam could get up here and tell you because I know she got it. And Roger, I know Roger got it. Anyway, I want you to understand that not every one of the plagues was announced. This is the battle of the gods. Moses and Aaron announced the first, the second, the fourth, the seventh, and the eighth plague. Okay? The first, the fourth, and the seventh were announced to Pharaoh in the morning. The first and the fourth were announced to him by the side of the Nile River, and both connected with the overflowing of the river. Okay? In the seventh plague, it doesn't say where it was announced at all. Now, the gods of Egypt is what God is attacking here. I want you to know that Satan has a lot of powers. We studied about Satan this morning, Satan and his dirty tricks. Satan has a tremendous amount of power. He is a supernatural being. He is not omnipotent. He is not omniscient. He is not like God. But God did create all angels in his image. I want you to understand that. And he created man in his image. And when he created angels in his image, it means that they are very powerful. And they are not subject to space and time, nor to the dimensions that we live in. Now they believe there's at least 10 dimensions. Now they think there's even more dimensions than that. They're just finding out things all the time, just constantly. They know now, and this is something that's not been discovered too long ago, that the colder something gets, the more powerful it gets. They are taking computers and putting them in a super cold environment, and they found out that they can do a million times more and faster than they can in a normal dimension that we live in. How many of you have seen these 300-mile-an-hour trains? They run on cold tracks. Cold tracks. When you get something like magnets and you put them way down to super cold, they'll just stand there and they'll just hover. Not attracting and not, it just hovers. And then it takes nothing to push it. 300 miles an hour. Great weights. This would be considered supernatural 20 years ago, all of this. But I'm going to tell you what happened in Egypt was supernatural. God used natural things to and multiplied it greatly. We know that later on that he fed Israel with manna. Manna was a natural thing. It was called, what is it? That's what manna means. But he multiplied it tremendously, to where no way it could have happened accidentally. This was supernatural. The river Nile, the god of the Nile was called the Khnum. Khnum. It's Khnum. Khnum. He was the guardian of the Nile. Hopi was the spirit of the Nile. So when he turned the water into blood, and it did have a red tide, but this is the wrong time of the year for the red tide. Okay? Not only was it the wrong time of the year for the red tide, but the red tide, and by the way, these miracles, how fast do you think God did these miracles? Over what period of time? In a movie, the Ten Commandments, it looked like he was just going boom, 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 boom. We know that it took at least 9 months of miracles. If not, some people say as many as 2 years. Now just think about this for a while. Now we're not talking about 3 weeks. We're not talking about a month. We're talking about minimum of 9 months of plagues and maybe 2 years. Okay? Now, Khnum, the guardian of the Nile, and then we have Hopi, the spirit of the Nile. God overpowered them. All right, these are two gods. This is the battle of the gods. Hikt is Heqt, was the god of the resurrection, and it took the form of a frog. Okay? So when he sent the frog plagues, and what he did with the frog plagues, he made every tadpole hatch. And every one of them come to maturity. A few years ago, we had frogs here by the thousands. Many more than that. One time in the 1920s, out there in Taft, between Taft and Bakersfield, there were so many rats out there that it was dangerous to drive on the roads. You were just driving on rats. That really happened. Cars were sliding off the road. You have to remember those real narrow tires back then, and real tall ones like these idiots do today. You know, they went backwards. The technology went reverse when they started with the great big wheels. That was out in the 20s and 30s. Anyway, they were sliding off the road. There was so many rats out there. They had really reproduced. And that was like miraculous. And sometimes there's the year of the crickets, and the year of the ants, and the year of the wasp, and the year of the bees, and the flies. This is the year of the flies, of course. You know, we've had so many flies around here anyway. But Hek was the god of the resurrection. Took the form of the frog. Apis was a symbol of fertility and took the form of a bull god. Okay, Apis, A-P-I-S. And then we're going to start at 8 and verse 4. 8 and verse 4. All right. Apis was a symbol of fertility and was the bull god. Okay. And then Imhotep was the god of medicine and cures. And Jehovah Elohim was more powerful than Imhotep. They had boils and staph infections. Then Nut was a sky goddess. Nut was over the control of the weather. And of course, when God sent hail, he overcame Nut. And then Zeth was the Egyptian god that protected the crops. And of course, locust overpowered Zeth, God's locust that he sent. The god Re, R-E, and A-T-N, Aten, and Atum, and Ors, all were sun gods. And then God's darkness that he sent, typifying how dark their spiritual minds were, was more powerful than all of the sun gods. Osiris was the giver of life and conception. Osiris. And of course, that was when he struck the firstborn. The gift of Osiris. The gift of Osiris. Now remember, this goes over a long period of time, and this is the battle of the gods. This is the battle of the gods, and this is going to cover a long period of time. Plenty of time for Pharaoh to repent. Plenty of time. Some people go on and on and on and hear the Word of God over and over and over again, and will not repent and will not believe. Gospel hardened. I'm going to tell you something. Pharaoh was a gospel hardened man, because God dealt with him for months, at least months, nearly a year minimum. And 10 times Pharaoh hardened his own heart himself. And then God did the finishing job. He petrified it. All right. Do you have any questions so far? All right. Did I do all right, Roger?
Yes.
Pam? All right. Wayikra, Pharaoh, Le Moshe, Yule Aharon, Wayomer, Hatiru, El Hadavar, Wayaser. And now here we have the word for frogs. Hatzfar Diim. Mememeni. All right. Turn my page. You Miami. We Ashalikach. Et Ha'am. We Yiz Bichu. Lihadavar. And he called Pharaoh to Moses. And look at that word he called there. I want you to start looking at the grammar, okay? What does it say there down below that? 3MS means what? Third person masculine singular. He called. Cal stem. That tells you what the stem of the verb is. And it's while consecutive and perfect. While consecutive and perfect. So how would we really translate this to the fullest extent? How would we do this? He called, and he kept on calling Pharaoh. Not just once. He's, please, 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 please. Please. He called Pharaoh. What's Pharaoh mean? The man that lives in the big house. To Moshe, Le Moshe, and Moses means what? To draw out or to rescue. All right? And to Aharon. What's Aaron mean? Dakota? What's Aaron mean? Remember what Aaron means? Light. What would be the modern name for Aaron? I mean, there are people named Aaron, but what other name? In Greek. I'm not going to be easy on you. In Greek. What would be the modern name in Greek for Aaron or for word? Photios is a Greek word which means light. It comes from the word phros. Our word Frank comes from the same word. Frank and Francis means light. All right? Frank and Francis means light. Okay. And he said and kept on saying, beg, entreat. Hiphel, imperative, masculine, pure. You all do this now. You all beg and entreat unto Jehovah. He even knew God's name, didn't he? Hadavar there. Jehovah at this time. They hadn't got the law yet, so they weren't afraid to say his name yet. Okay? And he said, keep on begging and keep on entreating and keep on pleading unto Jehovah that he may remove. He may remove and take away. Third person master senior, Hiphel, Jusif. Okay? The little frogs from me. What's the word frog mean? How about this word frog? You remember what that is, Brother Abe? Frog? What does he do? What's a frog do? He chirps. He croaks. He scratches and claws and digs holes. He whispers. All right? And the frogs, what did they think about a frog? They were the communicants from the other side. All right? This is the God of the resurrection, remember? These are the communicants of the other side. They thought that they were whispering, that they were giving messages from one domain, from one period of time to another, from one dimension to another. This was the link. The frog was the link to the dimensions. Get these frogs away from me. I don't want any more of my frog gods. And no more frog gods. All right. Let me see if I can find the other half of this. You Ami. And from my people. Now what does Ami mean? That's the root of this. It's ayin and mem. What's the root of that? What does it mean?
People,
People, but it means more than people.
like world.
My family. The other ones were slaves. There are two people lived in Egypt, slaves and family. So this is the family. Get it away from my people, my immediate family, and my extended family. I want you to get rid of that. I don't want them around me. And I shall shoot away, I shall send away, and that word is shalak there. Look at that word, shalak. Right down below that root, we have Shem, Lamet, and Chet, shalak. Shalak. It's first person construct singular. PL stem. PL stem means what in Hebrew? That's a great force. That's like shooting something out of a cannon. And it's cohortive. Right? And I shall send away. I shall voluntarily. I shall want to do this. I shall want to shoot them away like shooting a bullet out of a barrel, or I shoot an arrow or throw a spear. The people. And they shall slaughter. Third person masculine plural, Cal Juicy Ben Meany. And they shall slaughter to Jehovah. He knew that they needed to make a sacrifice. Now, in Egypt, they had human sacrifices. Did you know that? Sometimes they would sacrifice human for different things. They would sacrifice a human. And when they sacrificed a human, many times they would... I didn't change that clock back there. I changed this one, but I left mine the same. They would sacrifice humans, and then they would cremate them. They'd cremate them, burn them up, and put their ashes. There are people, groups of people in the world that did not, down in South America, for instance. Down in South America, there are tribes in South America that did not bury their dead. They would burn their dead, and then they would take the ashes and mix it with water and drink it, so that the people would live through them. That's what their idea was, that the people would live through them. And it felt like they were part of them, and then there was no place. It was very sacred to them to do this. But they were died. You know, when they died, they did this. 8 and verse 5. Wyomer, Moshe, Li Pharaoh, Hit Paer, Ale, Li Mate, Ater, Lika, We La Avadika, Yuli Amika, Li Hakrit, Hatzvardim, Memeka, Umibbatika. Now look at this one. You've got Umib. You got a baith there, and then you got a double baith. See, it's got that force in it, that little dot in the middle of it. Umibba, and then the teth is doubled, and it's strong. Umibbatika. See, double T, double B. Rock, Bayor, Tisha Arna. Are you on? I'm spending a little extra time on some of this like this. Is this all right? Not boring you to death. I don't like to bore you with little details. I just kind of throw them at you every now and then. That way you catch them occasionally. And he said, and he kept on saying, third person singular, cal, while, consecutive, and perfect. Remember that tense. Tell me what that tense means, Brother Roger.
Keep on doing it.
The keep on, the while, consecutive, and perfect means they continued to do it. He said it, did it more than one. And he kept on saying Moses to Pharaoh. He kept repeating this. Glorify yourself. Glorify yourself over me. For when I shall keep on, look at this. First person construct singular, hifel imperfect. When I shall keep on interceding, I shall keep on begging, I shall keep on pleading for you and for your slaves. Now look at this. This is slaves. This is not his family here. This is avad. The root of this is avad. Aleph, Beth, and Deleth. Not Aleph, but Ayin, Beth, and Beth, and Deleth. Avedika, Aved. And for your family or your people, to cut off and to destroy. To cut off and to destroy the frogs. The frogs from you and from your household, your family, your household family. That's from Beth right there. That's the root of that is Beth. From your household. Only in river she shall be left remaining. Third person, feminine plural. She. These frogs are in the feminine gender. Okay? This word's in the feminine gender. Only in the river. Now, where do the frogs belong? In the river. On the banks of the river. That's where they belong. Okay? They will be there where they're supposed to be. God had sent them into their houses. He had sent them into their bathrooms, into their bed, into their kitchens, into their ovens. They were all over the place. They had frogs and frogs and frogs. Gods everywhere. They were sick of their gods now. Sick of the gods. All right. Can anybody name me the names of gods, of these gods that God has overcome so far? All right. Noom. All right. Noom is what? Remember what Noom was?
No.
The Nile River. The Nile River. How about Hopi? Noom was a guardian of the Nile, and Hopi was what? The spirit of the Nile. Now what is he? God? Hecht, the God of the resurrection. Now he has whipped Khnum, he has whipped Hopi, and now he has beat up Hecht. I need to go to my other volume. My next volume. I'm just into the 11th chapter right now, translating with the thanks of Roger helping me do some transcribing. One more night with the frogs. That's the name of this message. One more night with the frogs. Wyomer. Limachar. Wyomer. Kid Barika. Lima'an. Tida. Ki. An. Ki. Hadabar. Elohinu. And he said, and what? While consecutive and perfect. What does it mean? He said and kept on saying. Third person masculine singular, cal, while consecutive and perfect. Page 55, Brown, Driver, and Briggs. Page 65 in Kohler and Baumgartner. That's why those two numbers are down here, okay? And what is the root of it? Amer. All right? For tomorrow, li matar. For tomorrow. And he said and kept on saying, according to your work, in order or in purpose, you may keep on knowing. Look at that. I have you may know there, but the whole idea of it, the grammatical idea, what is that, Brother Roger? Read that to me. Read that line right there where it says grammatically what it is.
What, you may know?
Right down below it.
Second person, masculine, singular, cal, imperfect.
All right. Second person masculine singular, Cal imperfect tense. So that you may keep on knowing forever. I want you to know forever. Key means that or because. And means not. That's also an adverb of negation. And then key, we got key here. Key, Jehovah, or key Hadavar, like Jehovah our God. Jehovah is, there's no God like Jehovah our God. There is no God like Jehovah our God. And let's see what he wants.
Why did he say tomorrow?
Tomorrow. Because he wanted one more night with his sin. One more night. I have to tell you this. One more night with the frogs. If you go to my website and look under Dr. Jim's or Brother Jim's Hall of Fame, go over there where Martin B. Cannon, Dr. Martin B. Cannon, and listen to a sermon that he did one more night with the frogs. He described the frogs of Egypt, just like we have here. And then he says, Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh. And this is purely Adamic and purely by Adam's nature. He asked Pharaoh, Pharaoh, when do you want me to get rid of the frogs? When do you want me to do it? Right now. And they'd be gone. Jehovah's power would be right there. But if he said right now, and Jehovah just goes, poof, and the frogs are gone, what would that prove? Publicly, instantly, right now, what would it prove, Sharon? The power of Jehovah. So he says, let me think here. Let me think. How is it going to look that Jehovah might not be quite as powerful? I'll just lay in the bed with my sin one more night. And that's the way people are, don't they? They love their sin. They don't want to get saved. They want to wait till tomorrow to get saved. They want to wait till tomorrow to repent. And then, because they might have some sinning they want to do. And old Pharaoh says tomorrow. Tomorrow. So it would look like a little bit less of a miracle, because he wanted still to resist. Pharaoh is hardening his own heart. He is wicked, he is stubborn, and he's making his heart strong against Jehovah. Making his heart strong against Jehovah. One more night with the frogs. Brother Canterman really preached that good. One more night with the frogs. How we don't want to turn loose of our sin. How we love the things of this world. How we just don't want to trust in God and let Him take our lives and do what He wants to with it. Sounded like he wanted to believe, didn't it? But one more night with the frogs. Even that request. How would you like to live and waller when you went to the bathroom, the frogs were in the toilet? When you laid down and laid your head on the pillow, there's a frog croaking right there by you, whispering in your ear. When you rolled over, you rolled on one. When you got ready to eat your pork and beans, they were right there. Right there by your pork and beans. When you wanted to take your bath, they were all over you. Frogs everywhere, frogs here, there, and everywhere, every place you look. And he said, just give me one more night with my frog. One more. Tomorrow I'll be saved. Remember what that old boy in the Bible said to Paul one time? You almost persuaded me to become a Christian. Come back tomorrow. We have 3 plagues that are over a long period of time still. This isn't instant bam, 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 bam. God's giving him plenty of time to think. Plenty of time to think. And they shall depart, the frogs, from you. Did we read this in Hebrew? We saru, Hatzvadiim, Memika, Umibbatika, Yumi Avadika, Yumi Amika, Rock, Bayar, Yush Shah Na. Yush Shah Na. See that shin doubles. Okay. Yush Shah Na. And they shall have departed. Look at this one. Third person, construct plural. Wow, consecutive perfect. This is future perfect. God could speak this like it's going to happen. It's like it's done. Well, because when God makes a plan, it's done. Jesus said to his disciples and to his little church, he said, I will build my church, I shall be building, I shall continue to build my church upon this rock, me, and the gates of hell shall not be able to wrestle her down. It'll be here when I come back. And I believe the Lord over Joseph Smith and Herbert Armstrong and all that bunch that's said that the church died, including Luther and Calvin. They didn't have to reconstruct it either. It didn't need reviving. It still was strong. There wasn't a Catholic Church either. It wasn't their little cheap imitation either. And they shall have departed the frogs, the cheepers, the whispers, the leapers, the dancers, from you. And from your living quarters, and from your slaves, and from your immediate family and your extended family. All in the river shall they be left, keep on being left behind. Look at this one now. Read that one for me, Sharon. Can you do that? What's it say down there right below that, where it says left behind? Remain.
Third person feminine plural.
All right. Only theys are here are she's. Only she's, literally, if you want to translate it literally, only she's shall be keep on being left behind. Nephel and imperfect. Only she's shall be left behind. Now that's pretty hard to bring it in English, but it's the they there is feminine. 8 and verse 8 now. 8 and verse 8. Do you have any questions so far? Sharon, you're always really good at asking questions. You've got a good little mind.
I'll write it down and flip it up.
All right. How about you, Pam? You got anything? Your noggin twisting up there? Twirling? Brother Abe, there's our little genius sitting right there. What do you got? Yes, sir.
Some dictionary. The word God means they thought Egyptian thought word God brings like lots of descendants, like birth, giving birth.
Like fertility.
Oh, the frog god was the god of fertility. That's Hecht. Yeah, Hecht. That's the god of fertility. That was their god. And remember, the whole story here is the battle of the gods. The battle of the gods. And God showing that he's stronger than any of the Egyptian gods. All they are is figments of men's imaginations. If you don't worship the true God of heaven, you don't worship God. You worship a rock or a thing. Because these were only their figments of their imagination. They imagined because so many frogs come when the Nile flooded and then the waters receded, then a lot of frogs would come to land because they were reproducing. But God didn't let one tadpole egg go wasted. All of them hatched. Okay? Why you see? Does that answer your question? Okay. Why you see? Moshe, we Aharon, Mi'im, Pero, Wayetzak. Now look at that word. We have the Sadhe right there. Now the modern Greek, Hebrew, they pronounce that as an S. Okay, but in biblical Hebrew, it's Wayetzak. Wayetzak. It's got a TS sound. Wayetzak. Like Mitzrayim. It's not Mitzrayim, it's Mitzrayim. Okay? Wayetzak Moshe, El Hadavar, All the Var, Hatzvar Diim, Asher, Sam Lifero. And he went out and kept on going out. He went out and just kept on going. That's the idea there. Third person, masculine, singular, cal, while consecutive, and perfect. He left and he stayed gone and he kept on going. Moses and Aaron. From with, is what it literally says, from with Pharaoh. And he kept on crying. Third person, masculine, singular, cal, while consecutive, and perfect. He kept on crying. See that, the root of that word down there? Sati, ayin, and kof. See that? Sek, sak, wayitzak. He kept on crying. Moses unto Jehovah. Upon the account, look at that, all the var. The var right there, it means an account, a ledger. A ledger. A book, an edict. Okay? It's like reo in Hebrew. And not in Hebrew, in Greek. Like reo in Hebrew, it means a whole edict, a whole flow of words. You know, Debar, Hebrew is a much more limited language than the Greek language. So one word in Hebrew has to do a whole lot. Where you'd have a lot of words in Greek to describe every little detail. Right here, the word here that would go into Hebrew or in Greek would be reo. Reo. Okay? Rhema. An edict. Upon, literally it says, I have upon the account, but the word the is not there. Okay, I want you to understand that. Usually I'll leave it out. Upon account or upon the account of the frogs. Now, the definite article in front of frogs there is there. So that's right. Okay? And usually I'll leave it out. I don't know how I did that, why I did that, but I put the in there where it didn't belong. Matter of fact, I think I'll just erase it. I don't like it. It bothers me. All right, you can erase it too if you want to. Upon the account, and the is not there. Upon account. The idea of it is there, but it's not. Upon account of the cheepers, the creepers, the whispers, the scratchers, the leapers, the dancers, the whisperers, and the croakers. That's what they are. Hatzfardim, which he had placed. Look at that word. Third person, masculine, singular, cal, perfect. He had placed against Pharaoh. He sent his own gods against him. He sent his own gods against him. All right. 8 and verse 9 now. We're just leaping and jumping and hopping wrong here, aren't we? Wayas, Hadavar, Kidbar, Moshe, Wayamutu, Hasvardiim, men, Habbatim, men, Seroth, you men, Sadoth. And he did and kept on doing. The word Asa, that's the root of it down there. See that 3-letter root? Third person, masculine, singular, cal, while, consecutive, and perfect. Page 793 in Brown, Driver, and Briggs. Page 889 in Kohler and Baumgartner. And he did and kept on doing Jehovah. What's the word Jehovah there mean? What does Ha-the-bar mean? Why do I put Ha-the-bar up there? Because they did not speak his name. They were afraid to speak his name. All right, Jehovah. The one who shall become. What's the root of it? What's the root of this?
Haya, to be.
Haya?
To be.
Yeah, to be. All right. Page 224, by the way, and page 243. If you want to write that down at the bottom of it. Just write down Haya. And 224. and 243. That's the root of the word Hayah. The name Jehovah is on page 218 and 19. But the root of it comes from Hayah. According to look at that, the word. Ki, that little word ki at page 473, that's the first part of that. We have a compound word. Kidbar. According to the word of Moshe, to the edict of Moshe again. And they died and kept on dying. They died and kept on dying. Third person masculine plural, cal, wow, consecutive, and perfect. They died and kept on dying. That's from Miot. I remember when I was doing the book of Genesis. When I was doing the book of Genesis, the Bereshith, it kept going on there. Every verse had Miot, 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 you Miot, you Miot, me Miot. All of this, Miot, and they died, and they died. They lived 900 years and they died. 869 years and they died. 700 years and they died. 770 years and they all died. We all have an appointment with this fellow right there, that Miot. And the frogs, the cheepers, the leapers, the dancers, the whispers, the croakers. From the dwelling places, the houses. That's the word bet is the root of that. Page 108. And from the enclosures. Look at that word. Ha-hats. Seroth. That's an enclosure. That's your garden. That's your fenced yard. Always, I'm really, and I guess it's a human protective thing. A gated community. A gated community is like a cow pen. You have a bunch of cows in it, and you shut the gate on it, and they're all in this little enclosed area, and that's what it means. The enclosures. These gated communities, from the courts, from the enclosure. The gated community, the gardens, and from the prairies, from the prairie. That word hasadoth. What does that mean? What does the root of that mean? Do you remember, Brother Abe? What's the root of? It's sedah. Sedah. All right. It means moist. It's something where there's moisture gathers, where there's grass growing. How many of you ever gone along a desert and just out there is nothing but desert and dry, nothing? There's some rice grass out there, just different little things, and all of a sudden you come upon a green clump. What does that tell you? Water underground. There's a little bit of subterranean water there coming up, enough to make grass. Okay? That's what this means here. This is a pasture land. Okay? A pasture land. The pasture land. 8 and verse 10. You got any questions so far? Are you learning the grammar just a little bit? I'm not trying to bore you to death with grammar, but just make you acquainted with it. Wayetz Beru. Otam. Shamarim. Shamarim. Wativ Vash. Wativ Vash. Haaretz. And they kept on collecting up in heaps. They kept on collecting. They kept on being heaped up. Them. That old Tom means. What is this them here? That's the frogs. Heaps. Heaps. Chamarin. Heaps and heaps. And she stank. Their God stunk. Their God of the resurrection stunk. What was the name of this God? Hecht. H-E-Q-T. Hecht stunk. Hecht stank. Third person feminine, singular, cal, wow, consecutive, imperfect. And she kept on stinking Hecht and causing the land that worshipped her to stink. The land that worshipped her to stink. 8 and 11. Any questions? What usually happens when this happens? When you have vermin out there and stuff stinking, what happens? You get flies, you get maggots, you get flies, and you get filth, and you get disease spreads. Now, I'm going to tell you something. God was working them over. Their God stunk. The river stunk. Along the river, what was the word for, what's the word for fish in Hebrew? Doggone. Doggone. Yeah. Dagon is the word for, and when the river, which God had power over the river God, or the spirit of the Nile and the protector of the Nile, okay, and then the fish god that was swimming in the Nile, he overcame the fish god, Dagon, and then he turned the God of resurrection, Hecht, into a curse. Your God can be your curse, you know. A God, if the guy chooses the wrong God can be a curse to you. Jerusalites worship a God that can't be touched. You know who the Russellites are? Who are the Russellites when I use that term? Anybody know here? Boy, I can't believe this. Charles Taze Russell founded the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, the Jehovah's Witnesses, if you want to call them that, and their little assembly halls. Their God will stink. One of these days, it will cause them to go to hell. Their God will. The Mormons. Joseph Smith, that all religions God's upset with, and besides God's, when he talked about God, he talked about his grandpa and himself. All Mormons are gods, in embryo. And just because Adam God's got a head start on him was the only reason why they haven't caught up with him. That God's not going to do you any good. God stinks. Herbert Armstrong's God stinks. All these gods stink. The wrong gods. The God of heaven, Jehovah, the real Jehovah, he is the one that overcame all of the religious gods, all of the religion of Egypt, and all the surrounding nations. How many languages did a person have to speak in Egypt to know all the languages of all the communities that Egypt ruled? How many languages was it? 70 languages. 70 languages. It ruled 70 nations. All of those 70 nations with all of their gods. This is the battle of the gods. This is the battle of the gods. This is the testing ground. Okay. Wayar. Pero. Ki. Hayeta. Hariwaha. We hak bed. Et libo. We lo. Shama. Alahim. Ka asher. Diber. Hadavar. And he saw and kept on seeing Pharaoh, that she had become the relief. The relief had come. The pressure was off. The respite was here. He could eat without smelling a frog in his food. He could have porridge without having a frog leaping in the porridge. Can you imagine that for this period of time that the frogs were there? Everything they ate, everything they smelled was frog, frog, frog. He smelled his God. And then after his God died, he smelled his stinking God. I used to go do a lot of deer hunting a long time ago. I was a guide. And this is an old Indian. I'm going to share an Indian trick with you tonight, okay? I have got a sense of smell that's bar none. Dakota? Have I got a sense of smell that's bar none? Yeah. I can smell anything that's going on in the house. My wife can't do anything in the kitchen. What are you doing in here? And I'm 100 feet away. What are you doing here in the kitchen? Anyway, and the smell of taste, and the sense of taste, and hearing, and I can't even hear. I mean, I'm deaf legally, but I can hear better than most real good hearing people. I feel sound. When Abe came up here, Abe, you went someplace. You walked like boom, boom, boom. I heard your footsteps, felt your footsteps. And he was gone for a while today. I said, he's here someplace. I can feel your steps. I can see a person when they walk. The way they walk, I recognize them. And it's a trained trait. A trained trait. You train yourself to do that.
I came too early. I was in the kitchen
I mean, but this morning,
this morning.
I know you, I felt your steps going across the deal out here, and then all of a sudden you were gone. I looked out the door and you weren't there. I saw some stuff down there.
Yeah,
I guess it was.
I passed 8:30,
Uh-huh.
8:20.
Uh-huh.
I went to another class.
Uh-huh.
I came back 9:30.
Uh-huh. All right. I heard you walking on the boardwalk. Could feel you walking on the boardwalk there about 9:30, somewhere around
Oh
there.
yeah. Oh no, not today.
Anyway, you know how an Indian learns how to smell and to feel? You know how to learn how to smell a rattlesnake? You kill the rattlesnake and you eat it and you rub it all over your face. And you smell that rattlesnake. I guarantee you when you walk in the woods you can smell a snake. I can smell an ant. You know how you learn how to smell an ant? Eat one and chew it up. And a deer in the woods. I can smell a deer in the woods. I used to go hunt and we'd kill deer. I can smell a buck deer and I can smell a male deer. I can smell the different deer. They're different smells. And you go up there and you skin the deer out, you cut all the lymph nodes out with your hand. You do all of this by hand, and you're smelling this deer, and you're smelling this deer, and you're smelling this deer. And you butcher this deer, and all the time you're smelling this deer. And I'm going to tell you something. When you get through butchering the deer, when you get through smelling the deer, you don't want to eat the deer for a few days. Of course, I'd let them set and chill in the refrigerator, and then I would cut it up. It would cure the meat, so to speak. The meat would tenderize better. You see Indians on the movies shoot a buffalo and then eat the liver of the buffalo. You know why? Because they could smell one from then on. You don't. It doesn't tell you that in the movie. It just shows you doing that. But what they're doing, and now when they go in there, I mean, if there's one downwind anywhere, you can smell that buffalo. You can smell that buffalo. Now, I can smell all those things. I can smell them rattlesnakes. Smell those buffalo. I can smell a skunk better than a coon dog can, I think, from a long, long different distance off. God made his gods stink. The river stunk. The fish stunk. The river stunk. The Nile River stunk. With Noom and Hopi and Hecht stunk. Until he could smell them, whether he wanted to smell them or not. Now let's look and see. And he saw, and he kept on seeing Pharaoh, that she had become the relief. And look at this. And he made strong his heart. He kept on making his heart strong. Infinitive absolute, Hiphel. He kept on making his heart strong. And not he had listened. And not he had listened. Third person masculine singular Cal what tense? Perfect tense. Not he had listened. Did this lesson of a gods so far, had it done him any good? God already overcame 4 gods. The Nile, the protector of the Nile, the spirit of the Nile, the Dagon, the fish gods that were in the Nile, and Hecht. All right, he's already overcome all of these. And not he had listened unto them, just as, or according to that ka eshuter, the edict spoken. Look at that word. He had spoken. Third person masculine singular, PL perfect. He had spoken Jehovah. God said he was going to do this. God said he was going to harden his heart. Now God didn't harden his heart here yet. Pharaoh's hardened his own heart. Pharaoh is putting the noose around his own neck. He's got the knife to his neck. He's got his own sword, those long, crooked, sharp knives right there on his jugular vein, and he's holding it there on his own jugular vein and just sawing it slowly. He's cutting his own throat. 8 and verse 12. 8 and verse 12. Wayomer, Hadavar, El Moshe, Imor, El Aharon, Neteh, Et Matika, Wihak, Et Afar, Haaretz, Wihaya, Lekenim, Bikal, Eretz, Mitzrayim. And he said Jehovah. And he kept on saying Jehovah unto Moshe. Say, masculine, singular, cal, imperative. You say, this is a command. This is in the imperative. You say unto, I forgot to put an unto underneath that L there. See that unto? Write yourself an unto under there. Unto, that's on page 39. I wrote down what page it's on, but I forgot to, in my head I translated, I guess, and didn't do it. Unto Aaron. Aaron means enlightened or light. Stretch out your staff. And what is this staff? This matika. What is this staff? Remember, Pam, what is this staff? Whose staff was the staff originally? Where did this staff come from? It's called the staff of what? The staff of God. And according to the book of Jasher, God held this staff in his hand. And what's this staff made out of? Two almond wood and what else? There's a sapphire stone on top of it, which is the color of heaven. It's blue, sapphire. Okay. Dakota, you still have your sapphire ring? No? You don't have a sapphire ring anymore? Okay, but I mean you do have it, don't you? Stones that are blue, the color of heaven. Okay. The Indians, when they had colors that represented things. The colors of the rainbow are the colors of the medicine wheel. They would, when they pray a prayer, they'd turn to the north, and the north is always white, purity, snow, cleansing. And then they'd turn from the north and they'd ask God to do this, and they'd say, Lord, let me have wisdom, true, regenerated wisdom. They turn east, and east was a color of reddish yellow. And they color to that reddish yellow, which is the color of the sun. Okay? And they say, oh, Lord, help me to remember every day you're the creator of life. You keep all things going. You make the sun rise every day. Without you, there would be no life. And then he turned to the south, which is green. If you go down to South America, what do you see? Green. Green. That's life, and it's sharing life, too. It shares life. And help me to share with my people. Help me to think of my family and to my relatives and others that might need my help. Then he turned to the west, which is the color of what? What do you think the west is? Black. Black is night. The sun goes down, it becomes dark. Help me to remember every day that we all have a destiny with Miot, with death. And they always used to say, this is a good day to die, because I am ready this day to meet you. And then they'd touch the earth, which is the color of red. Adam, red earth. They touch the earth and say, this is our mother. Earth is our mother. And then they touch the sky, which is blue. That staff was almond wood with a blue sapphire stone in the top of it. You go and you read about the descriptions of New Jerusalem, and you see all these beautiful, precious stones. Nothing but pavement. Gold, precious metal, is pavement. Paving material. And the foundation of that city is precious stones. And the throne of God sets upon what? A giant glass pavement, and that glass pavement is really not glass, but it's diamond. Diamond which reflects all the lights of the glory of God. Then it's the good stuff. Your staff. Stretch out your staff and strike. Masculine, singular, hifal, imperative, and strike. Sign of the direct object. See that? What's the sign of direct object in Greek? Ace. and strike the dust, the dry dirt, the earth, afar. The dust of the earth. And in the dust of the earth was a lot of gnat eggs. And let him become for gnats. Let the dust, let him have become, literally, because that's third person masculine, singular, cal, wow, consecutive, perfect. Future perfect again. Let him become. Now here is the root of the word Jehovah. That looks almost like the name Jehovah, doesn't it? For gnats. Well, I didn't bring my book tonight. I was going to. In all the land of Egypt, in all the land of red mud and canal banks. Gnats. These gnats are little biters. Have you ever been bit by a gnat? You come out there at my place. Well, there was a dairy fly flying around in here a little bit earlier. If you let that guy lie on you and stay there for a little while, you're going to have a bloody spot because he'll bite the blood out of you. These are biting flies. They're biting gnats. Wayasu. Ken. Wayet. Aharon. Et. Yado. Bimatihu. Wayaak. Et. Afar. Haaretz. Watihi. Hak ke nam. Ba Adam. Uv Behemah. Kal Afar. Haaretz. Haya. Kin Nim. Bikal. Eretz Mitzrayim. And they kept on doing. Third person masculine plural, cal, wow, consecutive, imperfect. Then they kept on doing thusly. And he kept on stretching out Aaron. He kept on stretching out, third person masculine singular, cal, wow, consecutive, imperfect. He kept on stretching out Aaron, sign of the direct object, his hand, yadah, in the power of his staff. By the authority of his staff is what's talking about. By the authority of his staff. And he kept on striking the dust. Boy, he was stirring up the dust. You know what the word deacon means? Deacon in the Bible, diaconia. What's that really mean? It means stir up dust. Deacon means go out there and stir up a little dust. I used to work in the oil patch. That oil field, you know, I was roughneck and a roustabout and all that kind of stuff. And we'd be out there working and going on, and the driller would come out there and say, guys, stir up a little dust, man. Start doing something. Here comes the boss. Stir up dust, you know, make a little dust. Get out here and get with it. All right. And he kept on stirring up the dust with his rod, with his staff, his symbol of authority. He kept on striking it. And the earth, haaretz, and she became, and kept on becoming, the gnats in man and on beast, uv behemah. All dust of the earth. Every egg in the you know, this is where the eggs are. All of the eggs. If you took and vacuumed this floor right in here, right now, and took a microscope, you're going to find out there's a whole lot of dust, a lot of little bugs in there, and bug eggs all over the place. If you vacuumed your head and your eyebrows, you would find out that there are little eggs in there of animals. These little small micro bugs. They're there, believe it or not. Now God is going to cause every egg to hatch. Not one of them is going to be left behind. He's using something that's already there. But he's going to multiply it by a great number.
What God does the gnats represent?
What?
What does the gnats represent a God?
Yes, there was a god, the protector, and the god that could call the flies away was Beelzebub. Okay? The fly god. The fly god was the one that, and Beelzebub, the flies, the gnats, the mosquitoes, all of these. They had plenty of mosquitoes. You know where malaria came from? Huh? Well, the mosquito can live without malaria. Malaria is a parasite to a mosquito.
It's warm.
It's a little worm that gets in the gut of a mosquito, and then when he goes and sucks your blood, he puts the worm in your blood. And it's in your blood. And it comes back. And you have, every 3 days or 4 days, you will go into these tremors and chills and fevers and all this kind of stuff. Mosquitoes can live without Vivax, without this infection, without this malaria. But this is where the malaria started, right here. The biting mosquitoes, the biting flies, the biting gnats, all of this stuff, God turned loose on them. He turned loose on them. On beast and all the dust of the earth, he became gnats in all the land of Egypt.
I'm still confused.
What?
I'm still confused.
Okay.
They worship, almost everything here is something that they worship.
Yes.
And that's why God was attacking it.
Mhm.
What part of the gnats is
Okay.
they worship?
The gnat is a fly god. The god of the flies was Beelzebub. Okay. Now Beelzebub controlled the flies. Okay. Beelzebub could call the flies and call them home, and they would pray that Beelzebub would keep the flies away from them. So now Jehovah God is what? Stronger and overcomes Beelzebub. Beelzebub. Do you have a picture of Beelzebub in there in that Bible in 8 Ages? Is there a picture of Beelzebub in there, Pam? You were looking, I think, was that Beelzebub that you had a picture of a while ago?
Is Beelzebub the same thing like Satan?
Huh?
Beelzebub is another.
Well, Beelzebub is also, Satan is called Beelzebub, all right? In some ways referred to Beelzebub, the god of flies, or Belial, which means worthless one. Do you have that in there, Pam, anywhere? The book called Babylon the Great, I think is what it's called, Babylon the Great. It has a lot of those, and some of the plates in there, I think they borrowed and put them in the Bible in 8 Ages. That's all right. Anyway, so Jehovah overcame Beelzebub, the god of the flies. The god of the flies couldn't control the flies, couldn't get them under control. He was a fly god. Could take them, and he was the one, when they wanted to pray for the relief of the land from the flies, they prayed to Beelzebub. Why did God send these plagues? Why did he send these specific plagues? This is a battle of the gods, and God overcome every one of their gods, and always in the end made their gods stink, and their gods bite them, and their gods be totally out of control. And Pharaoh's magicians did create different things. They brought that, well, I don't want you to call it create or not, but he caused the frogs to come. He caused the water to turn into blood, all this stuff. They did this. But now God is going to refrain from allowing Satan to do anything. Satan's powers aren't going to work. He has now going to cut them off and show them that even your priests, your spiritual leaders, have no power now. God has made them immune from doing anything to even compete with Jehovah. There's no longer any competition with Jehovah. Do you have any more questions? Sharon, no more questions? Pam, you got a question? Brother Abe. Brother Roger. I'm almost afraid to ask you. You know more than I do. You're working overtime, your brain is, I'll tell you. Real good. Sharon, nothing? Did you learn something tonight?
Oh, yeah.
What did you learn?
Well, you had mentioned before about the battle of the gods, but I didn't realize, how particular and how targeted these plagues
He targeted each and every one.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen in a week.
So
It happened over it happened from 9 months to 2 years, some scholars say. This was a long battle. It was a war. The war of the gods. The war of the gods. You know, they had on television here, while on public television, they had the War of the Worlds with Orson Welles when he did that, you know, and I mean, people died. When they broadcasted that, they thought really Mars had attacked the Earth and all this stuff, and they were running, they were jumping out windows, they were swimming, they were abandoning their cars, they were doing all kinds of crazy things. This really happened in Egypt. And then they got on there at the end of the program, and they kept telling news flashes to Orson Welles, tell him it's just this play. Tell him it's not for real. And he wouldn't do it. I mean, he had the people captured. The greatest radio play that ever was, I guess. They really had it. He had them by the throat. I watched a movie that Otter Murphy did one time. The best job of acting I think he ever did. It was a dark movie. It was on television. It was called 4-Star Time Theater. It was called The Man. And he played a man that was totally insane. And this man he would change from personality to the personalities. And he would be a real nice guy one minute, and the next day he was a killer. Going back and forth, just switching persons. Well, I'm going to tell you what, God is fighting every one of their little gods, all of their little so-called supernatural beings over different areas of nature. And God is showing him that I am the God, I am the real king of Egypt. Not you, Pharaoh. I am the king of Egypt. I am the Lord of all the land, and I'm the Lord of all the gods. Not one thing in Egypt has any power over me. And what did Pharaoh keep doing for 10 times? He kept making his heart strong toward God. Every time God would release him from the throes of misery, he would turn around and just go the other direction again and again and again. All right, let's have a word of prayer. Brother Roger, you got it.
So the question is more of a statement. Is God using Egypt because at that time it's the most powerful?
It's the most powerful nation in the world, but it has captured his son.
Okay.
And God is absolutely, imperatively, he must protect his son, and he must rescue his son, his heir. He must rescue his heir. He must. And the whole plagues of Egypt are a type of the end times here in the tribulation period, because we see all the plagues repeated over there again in the book of Revelation. Okay? We see them all again, and we find who was behind all the gods in Egypt. Satan. He was behind them all. Who's in control here in the tribulation period? Who is being worshipped on earth for a short period of time? Satan, through the Antichrist, through his heir. It's his heir. Satan's heir is on this earth. He's on this earth, and he's got the whole world. And see, Satan, the heir, the Antichrist, is the embodiment of Satan, and they will worship him. Now that's Satan's son. Now God's son is in Egypt, and God must rescue that son. And he shows us in Egypt that he is more powerful than all the gods that Satan has placed in power there. He's more powerful than all of them. So even in the end times, in the eschatological time, that's the study of end times, over here in tribulation period, God is going to prove again that he is more powerful than if he allows Satan to impregnate a woman and bring his child in, and he's being worshipped, and he's controlling all of the Middle East world. That it means nothing. Just like Pharaoh, that he's powerless before an omnipotent God. Do you see it? Here we have two societies in juxtaposition, side by side. In juxtaposition, traveling in parallel. And we see how God, way back yonder, told the story that's going to happen over here again. In a different way. God must rescue his son. God must take care of his son. God must rescue you from this old world when he calls you his own. He is imperatively must do it. It is bindingly necessary for him to rescue you and me from this body of sin. All right? And he's going to rescue his son from the body and bondage of the world. Egypt is the type of the world and also a type of the Antichrist reign. You can see that in both ways. Do you like this class tonight? Did you open your mind just a little bit? All right. Let's have a word of prayer, and I'm going to send you out on the world. How about my other Sharon? You want to come up here now and dismiss us in prayer? Two Sharons.
Thank you, Father, for this class. Thank you for this opportunity to learn your word and to learn how your plans unfold and how your will is you say it and it's done. And it's done when you say it, even if that time is a long time before. And Lord, I just thank you. My head is still spinning a little bit, all these things to think about and to meditate on and to ponder. And Lord, I just ask your blessing and protection for everybody here in the week to come, and Lord, for everybody out there who will see this, that they also may be blessed and learn to just worship and honor you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. The battle of the gods and the juxtaposition of the plagues of Egypt and the end times eschatology. That's what we're studying. We're going to see that in every class. In every class. Thank all of you for being here. Come back next week and come back on Sunday morning if you want. Well, Wednesday nights first. We're having some really good classes on the book of John. By the way, last week in the Gospel of John, they downloaded it more than they ever have. I don't know how good that class was, but it must have been good. Or they liked it or didn't like it because they downloaded a lot of it.
Have you gotten more figures of where people are downloading and all
Oh,
that?
it's all over the world.
I mean, I know it's all, but I mean, you shared a few months ago.
Yeah, right. See, that's the last one right there. See that?